Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Senator Barrasso is just cooking with gas on this one on Meet the Press, reminding the Democrat-held media that they own this terrible healthcare situation. Let's dive in.
Democrats demanding a vote on extending Obamacare subsidies. Will you vote yes to extend Obamacare subsidies, Senator?
Well, as Senator Kaine said, they're going to bring a bill to the floor, and I'm going to see what's in that bill. I'm a doctor. I practiced medicine in Wyoming for 24 years, and I've always wanted people to get the care they need from a doctor that they choose at a price they can afford. And Obamacare basically destroyed that possibility. Remember, President Obama promised you could keep your doctor, you could keep your policy, and insurance costs would go down by $2,500 a family. The exact opposite happened. Costs doubled. Insurance companies got very rich because the government kept sending money to national insurance companies to prop up the failures of Obamacare. The subsidies are up 80% of the cost of the insurance. Even the New York Times and Washington Post said Obamacare is pricey. It was never affordable. So there have been all these subsidies. And then a couple of years ago, and this is what this is all about, Joe Biden and the Democrats said, prices are going up even higher. We need to put new subsidies on top of the old subsidies during COVID. These are the Biden COVID bonus subsidies. Those are the ones the Democrats set to expire this year. That's what the fight is about. If the Democrats bring a bill that actually lowers the cost of care, that's something I think people want to talk about. But I don't expect that to happen. They just want to extend these subsidies, which is just putting another big Band-Aid on a gaping wound that needs major surgery.
So you're saying you won't extend them in their current form. I hear you critiquing Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act, Senator, passed 15 years ago. Republicans have been criticizing it, threatening to repeal and replace it ever since. But where is the Republican health care plan 15 years later?
Well, as you know, not a single Republican voted for the Obama health care law. We are going to have a meeting of the Finance Committee on Wednesday, again, focusing on health care. I'm on that committee. A number of physicians are also on that committee. I think that we need to make sure people understand the costs and give them choice and give them control. What we've seen is health insurance companies, stocks have gone up 500 to 1,000% since Obamacare became law. We can't continue to subsidize this failure. If people are given the money to make their own decisions and buy what works best for them and for their families, I think that the choice, the opportunities are much, much better. Now, on this committee, of course, is Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and they want to do one size fits all government-run healthcare that they have in Britain right now, which is failing that country. I want to put people in charge of their decisions, not bureaucrats, which is what we've had with Obamacare.
Senator, but what I hear you saying is that there's no plan, there's no bill. President Trump is calling for direct payments to Americans, which would inevitably lead to repealing Obamacare. Just to be very clear, will any plan include repealing Obamacare?
We need a plan to lower the cost of health care in America. I know very well what's going on in Wyoming with the 40,000 people who are on Obamacare, get very high subsidies, over $900 a month.
So do you want to repeal it, Senator?
Do you
want to repeal it?
I want to make sure we have a health care plan that works for the American people, and Obamacare has failed. We cannot continue just continuing to subsidize a failing plan, which is causing more and more costs and hardship around the country. What the Democrats have offered was $350 billion more dollars to prop up Obamacare, which has failed. And of course, they first started the shutdown, which has been a disaster for the country, by demanding more money for health care for illegal immigrants. I mean, that's where they have gone. We need to work to get a health care insurance program that works to lower the cost. And the way you do that is put people in charge to make those decisions. And that's what I've been fighting for.
You know, we used to have a cedar tree right outside of the house. It was quite literally standing up right next to it. And one day it was starting to get a little bit too big. So my dad and I agreed that the best way to deal with this is to cut down the tree. Now, if you haven't ever had to deal with the pain of trying to cut down a tree and have it fall in a certain direction. Normally, you just pay someone an exorbitant amount of money, they'll get their machinery in there, and it'll be done in a flash. That's what the Democrat plan is when it comes to Obamacare. You pay someone else a lot of money that you might not have on hand to deal with a potential problem. So what did my dad and I do? Well, he cut a notch in the tree, and then first he got up on a ladder, tied a rope around the limb halfway up the tree and made sure that the thing was secure. I started pulling on it to make sure that it could go one way or the other, tied off the rope on another tree in order to give it a guaranteed anchor. My dad took the saw and started cutting at it away. Lo and behold, once it came time, my dad knocked out the notch. We pulled down the tree. We did that in a span of about 3 hours. It cost us about $5 in gasoline money in order to pay for a new tank of gas that could go into the chainsaw. That's a Republican idea. Make it easier for you. Take your own initiative and make sure that you are able to get a good healthcare plan. That's the whole debate in a nutshell. It is time to stop subsidizing this nonsense. And it's time to start talking about actual policies. There's a reason that Barrasso is not talking about his own solutions. One, the Senate doesn't talk about solutions. They talk about government, they talk about stability, they talk about foreign policy. That's their job. The House is supposed to come up with the solutions, and it's the Senate's job to, shoot it all down. But seriously, talking about the way to replace healthcare will cause nothing but insanity. You have got to take out the problem first. All right? You don't talk about the cancerous tumor. You remove the cancerous tumor. Okay? Just sitting around talking about it isn't going to change anything. And here's, by the way, the solutions that Republicans can talk about without rocking the boat. One, you force hospitals to line item exactly what has been billed, what has been purchased. I know from my own experience, back when I worked for a company that worked directly with these hospitals and gave them a bunch of their supplies, back when the lockdown started happening, our warehouse was overflowing. We did not have space for all the inventory. So the question is, why? Hospitals were needing this stuff, right? Turns out that they were trying to fleece the state and federal government for extra money by not buying and cooking their own books saying, oh, we're poor. Sure. They will manipulate stuff like this and on a constant basis, all because they can. And here's something that'll make matters even worse. If you talk to folks inside the medical industry that aren't a part of the logistics, that aren't a part of, essentially it's either logistics or the nursing and actual care side. If they're outside of those spheres, it depends. But if you talk to the nurses and the doctors and the bureaucrats, they all love this system. And if you talk to the people outside of that system who actually work in the logistics chain, they hate it with the burning passion. But they know there's money to be made, and so they don't bother rocking the boat. Well, it's time for the folks that talk about logistics, normally Republicans, to start saying, you know what, enough with the nonsense. We've got to start making this opaque. How that will help healthcare? As a matter of fact, that will show how much things are costing, so you can ask yourself, how much money is going to this insurer who buys this product because this doctor is using this sort of surgical procedure when he could be doing this product with this insurance company that would make this outcome a whole lot cheaper or this outcome a whole lot more effective. It is a ridiculous ball of yarn that keeps getting unspooled, and guess who has to take care of that mess? We do. We have one of the most expensive healthcare systems in the world with some of the worst results. And yet, at the same time, the world comes here for their elective surgeries. You talk to Canadians, and when they need surgery fast, they want to cross the border to the United States. Same thing with the folks from the UK. They love the idea of paying through the nose for extra things that they can get right now instead of going on their national healthcare plan while their needed objections get kicked down the road. You do not solve problems like this by over-bureaucratizing it. You solve it by making the system more clear so you can see the costs, you can ask the right questions, and you can start figuring out how to actually cut the waste, fraud, and abuse of this entire system. So Barrasso can't really say that because if he does, it's going to cause the lobbyists to chimp out. And naturally, the Senate does not want the lobbyists to chimp out. However, if you want to start taking down this rotten tree, you got to start cutting, you got to start planning, and you got to start realizing, when's a good time to actually take this down? Well, guess what? I think the time is now. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Till then, y'all have a good one. And if you want to support us further and keep us as independent as possible, keep it as sleek and streamlined as possible, consider becoming members, full-time monthly membership fees. You will get special content catered to exactly what you want to see and news you can use. That will go a long way to keeping this team functioning and will keep us giving you things that the mainstream media doesn't really want to cover. Till next time, y'all have a good one.